Dozen eggs has doubled. Pound of hamburger, and I grew up eating a lot of Hamburger Helper as a kid. It was like $3.50, $3.80, $3.50 back then. It's $5.58 today. Diapers are up 48%. It all adds up fast, especially when you have small kids. Now, I vividly remember when I had two little ones, both in diapers, formula. I remember telling my husband, when our kids grow out of diapers and formula, we're going to be rich, right? That's money back in your pockets. And if you're a senior citizen on fixed income, every little purchase you have to think about. And you realize it's not the retirement that you expected because money is so tight. You know, growing up in a working class family, I know that feeling of just not getting ahead. As a kid, I was embarrassed when my mother took us to used clothing stores. My mom also would take us to these discount stores, and we didn't go home with our clothes. She put them on layaway. And she'd go every week to put a few more dollars down until someday she could bring home the clothes for her 6 kids. I remember that like it was yesterday. And to feed a family of 8, Mom would go to this other discount store that sold day-old and week-old bread and stale Twinkies and put them in our freezer so we could have them week after week. She bought them all at a great discount. Fried Spam sandwiches and tuna casseroles were seen all too often at our dinner table. I didn't like either one of them. But as my own family was starting out, we had our own challenges. My husband and I were public servants. We wanted to serve the community. We didn't make a lot at first. And when kids came and I couldn't afford childcare, couldn't find something available for us, I left that job. We really had a stretch then. Like many of you, I clipped the coupons. I used to go out to a big discount grocery store and load up 2 big shopping carts. You know, those giant packs of diapers and toilet paper and paper towels and cereal, these big cartons, trying to find a place to store them. And I was praying it would last the month because I knew I could not go back there with that shopping cart for another month. Kids' sneakers got tighter, clothes got to shrink every day. And I, like many of you, I dreaded those bills coming in the mail every month. Now, my husband and I, we are blessed and we are so fortunate now, but I never forgot where I came from and how hard life can seem sometimes, especially this time of year, right, parents? Your kids are seeing all the great toys that they want. And you have that pit in your stomach because you know that Santa's not going to be able to bring that for them this year, and they'll be disappointed. I know what that's like. Now, we're told inflation is getting better. It's supposedly coming down. But let me ask this question. Do any of you feel like you have more money in your pockets today? No? No? No, I didn't think so. I didn't think so. And that's not what I heard when I was doing back-to-school shopping at Target with Melissa Anderson and her 9-year-old twins. Even her kids knew as I watched them pick out the backpacks off the shelves. One was $39 and one was $79. And the little 9-year-olds told his brother, put down the more expensive one. You know, Mom can't afford that. And they grabbed the cheap ones. Already embedded in them is that they can't have something that others have and they're just kids. It broke my heart. I was glad we were able to help them with a program to help back to school shopping, but it was still really hard. So I will say this. As New York's first mom governor, I know the stress parents feel intuitively. In my bones, I feel it. And that's why I am so committed to helping New York families in any way possible. Make your lives better in real, tangible ways. Putting money back in your pocket and in those of millions of hardworking New Yorkers. And that is why today I'm announcing New York's first ever inflation rebate. Billions of dollars going back in the pockets of hard-working New Yorkers. Now, how are we doing that? How are we doing that? Listen up. Now, the past 3 years, New Yorkers, because the price of everything has gone up, you've had to pay more in sales tax than even my budget director, who's sitting right there, expected. Right, Blake? Okay? Gotta let it go, okay? Gotta let it go. Yeah. Prices go up, more sales tax is collected because the price of everything was up. Now, I'll tell you right now, I'm sure there are some elected officials or some special interest groups will weigh in and say, oh, I know how that extra money should be spent, that one-time extra sales tax revenue spent. But here's my message. I'm on your side. I believe that this extra inflation-driven sales tax revenue shouldn't be spent by the state. It's your money, and it should be back in your pockets. Back in your pockets, right? There you go. Show you the money. Show you the money. This will help with your expenses, to buy the groceries for your family. Here's what I'm proposing in my budget next month. They will send you a check to buy your groceries for a month or whatever you want to spend it on. And if you're an individual earning up to $150,000 a year, it's $300. What does that look like? All right. How about that for individuals? Now, if you're filing jointly and you have a family, you need a little more, right? Mm-hmm. Families are expensive. How about this? $500. $500 for families earning less than $300,000, because I know life in New York City is expensive and your salaries may sound nice, but they don't go very far. This is a one-time $3 billion surplus that I believe should be returned to 8.6 million households across New York later this year. First, I have to work with the legislature and win their support in the budget. You think we can do that? Yes. I think we can do that. And for some families, that $500 can mean a month's worth of groceries. For seniors on fixed income, you can sit there at least a couple times and not say medicine or heating bill. For a young person starting out, but they've got student loan debt or the high cost of rent, that can just help them a little bit. I say it's your money, it belongs in your pocket, and it's coming your way. So, leading up to my State of the State address in January, you're all invited, I'll be outlining even more strategies to make New York more affordable. And once again, I'll keep talking about what we need to do to help New York families thrive and how we're going to stand up for the children of this state. Now, as governor of this great state, I will never stop finding ways to reduce the financial stress that I once knew as well. I think a lot about working moms and dads in the state. I think about our healthcare workers, our bus drivers, our conductors, the laborers, the restaurant, hotel workers, the first responders, the teachers. We all depend on them. And I want them to be able to stay here. I don't want people to leave because they can't afford to live in this great state where they started. That would be a travesty. I also think a lot about our seniors. Think about the faces of my very poor immigrant grandparents. Both of them worked in factories. Grandma and Grandpa worked in factories, supported their family of 10, and had a later struggle in their twilight years when they should have just had an easier go of it. And I'm thinking about all of you living here in Co-op City, this tight-knit community where people work hard every day and they look out for each other. I want you to believe in your state again like I do. Believe that New York is a place where your effort pays off, where people can get ahead, not just get by, where parents can focus on their kids instead of the Bills, unless it's the Buffalo Bills. Don't mention yesterday's game, it was a little rough. But I want people to grow up in the communities they were born in and raised in. They can raise their own families there. I want students to afford an education without being crushed by debt, because your dreams are my dreams. This proposed $3 billion inflation rebate is historic, not only because it hasn't been done in New York before, I don't know if it's been done anywhere, but also because it signifies what's possible. I will continue to find creative ways to let you know I understand your struggles, but I also understand your hopes and your dreams, and will help you along the way. Because New Yorkers, your dreams are my dreams. Whether you live in a small town with holiday lights down the main streets, or you live in one of the great, incredible urban neighborhoods like Co-op City, know that I have and never will, never have and never will stop fighting for you and your family every single day. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And now,
thank you. Let me introduce Dr. Helen Wingate. Thank you, Dr. Wingate.
Thank you, Governor Hochul. Certainly to all the elected officials, community leader, faith-based leaders, all of you, my brothers and sisters, it is a pleasure and a blessing to be here at this press conference this morning. Today's news conference is putting more money in New Yorkers' pocket, addresses the concerns that I constantly hear from my congregation on Sunday morning. It is imperative that the needs of our communities are met. Housing, child care, food are essential things for working people. If families are not able to work, they cannot pay rent, they cannot buy food, they cannot afford child care, which all of us as parents and grandparents want these services to be safe and profitable to our children. And so, as a grandmother and a mother, I feel the concern of people who are concerned about the inflation that arises in our community on a daily basis. The governor is here and has said that she's going to put money in the pocket of all New Yorkers, and that is very important because Governor Hochul has been doing this throughout her tenure and keeps making New York a more affordable for working people, and certainly as a faith-based community. We have a responsibility to those in our care. And so I want to say thank you to Governor Hochul for putting monies back in the people's pocket that actually and rightly belongs to them. As a grandmother and as a pastor, there are people in our congregations who have children in daycare. We want to know that our children are safe. We want to know that they're being treated fairly. We wanted to know that they are well cared for. But if these services are not provided, then what are these parents are going to do? So it is important as faith-based leaders, as elected officials, as community leaders, that these important services are provided for the people of our community. Peter was asked the question by the master, Peter, if you love me, feed my sheep. The reply was, yes. So Governor Hochul, you love the people of New York State, and you are providing this inflational rebate, that those who have given money as taxpayers, that you will put this money back into their hands, that they will be able to provide and care for their loved ones. $500 may not be a lot to you. $300 may not be a lot. But for those who do not have, it is a lot. So thank you, Governor Hochul, for what you're doing for the people of New York and all of the elected official and community leaders who are here today, who love and they are concerned and they care about the people of New York. So today, I am blessed to be here, to see love in action, to see the love of all those who are in this room, who took the time to come and to say, we want better for the people in our neighborhood. And certainly, our governor is doing that. God bless you, and thank you for the service that you are rendering to the people of New York State. And at this time, I will introduce to you Brother Rod Saunders, Chair Board of Co-op City.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Co-op City, the largest housing development in the Western Hemisphere. We here at Co-op City, a working class community of over 40,000 people, certainly knows what the benefits of having monies back in your pocket would be. We're arguably one of the largest working class communities in New York, and therefore, we understand what it is to get monies back in our pockets. I think Governor, I think your initiative is wonderful. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for coming to express how you are trying to help New York City residents, New York State residents. And by the way, I share your pain because all of New York football went 0 for 3 yesterday. So we all found a way to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. But thankfully, you are beginning to do something about putting money back in the pockets of New Yorkers. You know, yesterday I went to the grocery store just to pick up a few items. It was Sunday, and we always need a few items for Sunday's dinner, and I went to do that. And in all, I had less than 12 items. Those items came to $84. When my wife and I got married back in 1970, the grocery cart at $40 we thought was an awful lot of money. And that was an entire cart full of groceries. Today it's incredible. You know, just to get your kids back and forth once they get out of elementary school, get your kids back and forth to school if they don't have bus passes or if they don't have train passes, it becomes an incredible expense. Daycare is an incredible expense. So, you know, thank God for the monies that the Department of Education gives to the city of New York. We are in a situation where having money back in your pockets, because as a working class community, and Co-op City is a large working class community, we pay our taxes. So to be able to get tax credit, to be able to get dollars back is woefully important. because every single dollar counts. So, Governor, I cannot tell you how important it is to know that you are working on the behalf of New Yorkers, and especially here in Co-op City, where there are so many. You know, at 8,400, we're the largest Newark community in the state of New York, possibly in the country. So when you're living on a fixed income, to be able to file taxes and get dollars back, that's an awful, awful big deal. So I want to thank you personally, Governor, for the big deal that you offer for the residents of the state of New York, especially for the residents here in Co-op City. You have always, by the way, been a partner of the residents here of Co-op City. I know you will continue to be a partner here for the residents of Co-op City as we go forward, but I want to thank you again for all that you've done for those here in the state of New York. Okay? I would now like to introduce Jennifer Jones-Austin.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor Hochul. Thank you for leading New York State and for leading the nation, for seeing that there are so many low-income and middle-income New Yorkers who are struggling. They're struggling to get by, they're struggling to get ahead, and they're struggling to stay ahead. And you're seeing them. At FPWA, the organization that I'm blessed to lead, we work with over 160 human service providers and faith partners throughout New York City. They have their boots on the ground, and they've helped us appreciate that so many people here in New York City, here in New York State, who are classified as low and middle income and are working 35 and 40 and more hours are having a hard time. And they're doing so without being seen. Traditional economic indicators like GDP growth, inflation rates, and unemployment figures don't see the everyday struggles, the juggling acts of working families, having to balance the expenses of food, childcare, housing, transportation, healthcare, college, and retirement savings, and real-life emergencies. And traditional economic indicators like the official poverty measure, supplemental poverty measure, and other measures capturing the most basic, only the most basic costs of sufficiency, don't see them either. These metrics miss the lived experiences of millions of New Yorkers who may not meet the definition of poor or even working poor, but they're one car problem, one layoff, one emergency, one crisis away from being able to get by, let alone get ahead. They can't even begin to save for retirement, for college for their children, or even to think about buying a home. Like our governor, FPWA has been hard at work trying to unpack this problem. And our research on why hardworking New Yorkers struggle began in 2019. It was the impetus that informed and shaped the New York City Racial Justice Commission's ballot measure. You all remember the ballot measure calling for a true cost of living here in New York City? The one that you all voted on? 81% of New Yorkers said yes, we need to calculate the true cost of living. Appreciating that New York is not unlike the rest of the nation, that Americans all over this nation are struggling. In 2023, we partnered with the Community Service Society, and we co-established the National True Cost of Living Coalition. Now, I'm going somewhere with this, Governor, because this ties directly to you. We are calling for the nation to establish a true cost of living so that we can see Americans and see what they need. We commissioned the nationally renowned Urban Institute to develop the measure to fundamentally shift the discourse on law and policy from just getting by to economic security, on what resources families need, not just to survive, but to actually thrive. 2 weeks ago, the measure was released. First ever groundbreaking true cost of living, true cost of economic security measure. The report was released, the findings, the measure, and here's what it tells us, Governor. When we look at every county across the country, What it tells us is that insufficient resources, more than costs, it's insufficient resources that are putting people below the economic security threshold. It's telling us that in some counties with incomes as high as 500% of poverty, $160,000, a family of 4, is living paycheck to paycheck. That 3 out of 5 children, 60%, are living in families with resources below the threshold. The measure, which is already received in just 2 weeks, widespread acclaim, confirms that Governor Hochul, in moving to increase the resources that families have through expanded eligibility for child care tax credits, tax relief, tuition assistance, and now inflation rebates, that you see working individuals and you see families, working families. You know what they need to live with dignity. Throughout our nation's history, we've heard famous people. We heard Jefferson, we heard FDR, Truman, all talk about economic security. But we've never done anything about it. We've centered this nation on subsistence. But Governor Hochul, you're centering us now on economic security. What people need to live with dignity. And in so doing, you are not just leading the state, you're leading the nation boldly and declaratively saying, we need to do more to put resources in the pockets of working Americans. So I thank you, I applaud you, thank you ever so much. And now, I get to introduce Westchester County Executive and soon-to-be Congressman George Latimer.
Somebody just whispered to me, keep it short, George.
I didn't say that.
After Jennifer's thorough analysis of this, I'm happy to keep it short because what she said covered exactly what needs to be said. Exactly what needs to be said. The most important thing to me, as currently as a county executive and soon to be a congressman, is that given the circumstances that we see today, the things that we've heard, I've been on the campaign trail for the better part of a year. People came up to me and they talked about their problems. They didn't talk about the national GDP. They didn't talk about where the economic indicators were. When they heard that the economic indicators were better than they were a month before, it didn't mean anything to them when they had to buy products like this and they didn't have enough money to do that. And I think of my mom and dad. Everybody's got a story. My dad was a maintenance man. My mom was a factory worker. How they did it, I don't know. And it was a different era when they did, but somehow they managed to be able to put money aside so I could be a commuter to college, go to Fordham and living in Mount Vernon. And today's Stan and Loretta have to be able to have that same opportunity. The American dream doesn't matter if today's Stan and Loretta can't aspire to the same thing that the Stan and Loretta of the 1960s were able to do. What Governor Hochul has done is very simple and it's very important. She's done something about it, because so much rhetoric has been generated about we have an economic problem but what's the concrete answer? Tariffs are not the concrete answer. This is taking money that the state has received because of the inflationary circumstances and channeling it back to the people that spent the money on sales tax when they want to buy the product. That's simple and it's brilliant, Governor. It's the exact correct way to do something concrete. Hopefully that's short enough, but more importantly, it's substantive. It's not just political rhetoric. This is a very real check that will be in someone's pocket. The state legislature where I served have people that feel the same concerns. I'm sure, Governor, this and the other initiatives that you're going to launch will be well received, and in due time we'll see the benefit of this thing that's mentioned today in the wallets of the people that we have coming up. Next, let me introduce Grace Bonilla, who is head of United Way, Greater Partnership for New York. She has done so much with very little in the volunteer and not-for-profit sector. Grace.
Thank you and good morning. I have the great pleasure of leading United Way of New York City, and through our healthcare providers, our pantries, and so many of the folks that serve New Yorkers every day, we know how hard it is for hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers every single day. In fact, we released a report not too long ago that shows that working New Yorkers, 50% of them cannot make ends meet at any given time during the year. That is a hard number to live with. The harder number was when I first started and I got a call from our pantry saying, we don't have enough food this week. Can you give us a little bit more in our allotment? The reality is that last year, 86% increase in visits to pantries was what our system was dealing with. The 500 pantries that we work with knew firsthand what it meant not to have enough food on the table. And we're talking about working New Yorkers. So that reality is something that we live with every day, Governor Hochul. And I want to thank you today for seeing us, for seeing the New Yorkers that wake up every day hoping that their city will be the city that their parents came to, lived in, and thrived in. And the reality is that it's not that for many, many, many New Yorkers. This type of rebate is the kind of thing that really helps every day, because I know, because I talk to them every day, that there's a New Yorker out there that has to choose between medicine and food. And thanks to this check, they're not going to have to. So on behalf of the 700 nonprofits that I work with that are trying to fill the gap, I want to thank you, Governor Hochul. We look forward to continuing to work with you. Y un poquito en español, gobernadora, muchísimas gracias por su compromiso a los neoyorquinos que necesitan este cheque. Thank you, everyone.
That concludes our program. We would like to acknowledge Councilmember Kevin Riley and Assemblymember Yudelka Tapia. Thank you for attending today's announcement. Have a good day.